Hey everybody, so I thought I'd do a little bit of a update video today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Epic Army as well as what's coming up this week as far as a stream video for Musty Wargamers with Rusty and I'll mention that at the end. And then also just, I guess that's probably mostly it, but I wanted to start with the title of my video, not Tiny Men, but teeny tiny men. And it's just kind of funny. You probably can guess because I'm talking about Epic that that's what I'm referring to, because these guys are not sort of like tiny men like my Eldar, but teeny tiny men. And I was having dinner last night, or I guess it was Sunday night. It was our Sunday night meal. We normally don't talk about my hobby and my family much at all. You know, it's acknowledged, but I have two daughters and my wife, and they don't really... We talk about other stuff that I enjoy, but we don't really talk about my hobby a lot. And for whatever reason, I have my paint stand, and I was doing some painting upstairs recently, and I must have had my paint stand out, and people have seen what I've been working on. And at dinner, I think it was my oldest that just was making conversation and said something like, you know, how's it going painting the tiny men? Or it was one of my daughters that said that, and then the other one said, we're the teeny tiny men, you know, because these are just so much smaller. And then, of course, it just sprawled into this laughter about Despicable Me and Vector and the whole teeny tiny toilet, and then into the whole me saying my wife is probably like, damn you teeny tiny men, just for a whole variety of reasons. She would totally fit into the damn you teeny tiny men. And so it was just really hilarious because we're big Despicable Me fans in the house, and so yeah, I just thought it was quite funny, and so I thought I would actually include that as to my intro to this video. And so, I've made some decent progress on the army. I mean, as you know, I haven't had much infantry to paint, and so I've started painting my infantry over here, and I realize that I have a couple of librarians in there. Now, for those of you that are enjoying this video but don't know much about 40K, librarians, they're not folks that, like, are actually, you know, going to the card catalogs and figuring out where your book is, as they did in the past. These are actual, like, psychers. They're sort of like wizards in the future in some ways. It's not the best example, but they're Space Marines in power armor, but they just have, like, psychic ability and are very powerful. And so I have a couple of those, which I've had to realize I'm going to paint them blue, because most of the librarians are actually do not adhere strictly to the chapter colors, but actually adhere to the order of the librarian. There's another word for it than that. I'll just call it that. And so, I've started to do a little bit of infantry there. There's not much for me to do in that regard. I'm going to start with the thing that I really enjoy. I had to do quite a bit of work on my Thunderhawk, and let's get some light here. I'm going to actually turn this up here. So I did my work on my Thunderhawk. I actually modeled my own foil on the back here because this was broken. It basically looks like this. It just has a little bit less, it has less detail on top, not just a little bit, it has less detail on top than the Forge World one, but because I didn't get the bit, because I got it used, I needed to essentially make my own, and so I did that. And I think actually it came out kind of nice. I have some, as you can see, I have a decal there on each side. The only other thing I was missing is I was missing one sort of bolter on the side there. So I'm just pretending that it kind of was casualty in battle. But I have all the other guns. And so I didn't airbrush this, but if looking at it there, you might think that I did something as far as highlighting. Like, it looks like I maybe airbrushed and did some taping. I could have, I suppose, but I just did some glazing, just glazed, highlighted it up. And the thing I did for all of these is I did an oil wash, like a black oil wash, and then used Q-tips or cotton buds swabs, you know, to actually wipe away the excess to sort of bring back the highlight but leave the dark in the recesses. I did that mainly, I really thought that technique would be good for this Thunderhawk and the tanks in general. I'll show you them in a moment. I did the oil wash for them as well. And the reason is everything is so small in Epic, but it's also really detailed. And so the thing that I found about oil washes that are really nice is that they're really vibrant, and whether it be black or even a color, like it's very rich, the pigmentation within oil color. And so, but it also cleans up amazingly well. Like with mineral spirits, you can make it disappear and it'll just go right into the cracks, but it doesn't go diluted into the cracks. Like it goes into the cracks like really still rich and like really vibrant. And so you can really see a lot of that detail, I think. And so, yeah, so I love this model. I mean, it's just so cool. It's a Thunderhawk. I haven't done the base yet at all. I put it on this thing with a magnet. But Thunderhawk is like prototypical Space Marine attack ship. And so, yeah, love it. And so, back to the tanks. So I have an assortment of tanks here. I apologize, I don't know the names of all of them. I should. I've never really got into playing Space Marines. I have a bit of a Space Marine army for 40k, but I never really played it much. I played it really small scale. I had like a Rhino, a couple of Rhinos, Land Raider, and things, but that's about it. So I have these. I think they're Striker Hunters, Hunter Killers, Strikers, and these guys I did somewhat. I mean, they are oil washed, but I did them somewhat reasonably as far as. I didn't do a lot of decals or anything too fancy on this particular one. Kept them kind of plain, but I think they look good. I did spend some time on the Rhino in the sense that I actually got a nice arrow decal, because like a lot of the vehicles will have that arrow symbol for the Space Marines. So I have that across all of them. The arrow there. I thought those came out really nice. Rhino is a very gold standard vehicle that you need. And then if you want to, I suppose, upgrade and have a bit more teeth, you go for the Razorback. A lot of the weapons in the army I did give a bit of a red cover to the propulsion system of the weapon. So I have that, everything from the Thunderhawk to the Predators you'll see in a moment. So yeah, I got a bunch of Rhinos, or excuse me, Razorbacks. Now, I think this is like an upgraded Predator because like it has the 2 cannon on the top, but this to me just looks like a really beefed out Predator. I really love this model. Initially, when I got all these tanks, I was just thinking, oh, I've got like a gazillion tanks. They're all kind of the same, you know, they're all unpainted. But really, this thing is so much heftier with all of the guns on it than the Rhino, even though it's like on a similar chassis. It's pretty much on the same chassis, but it's got a lot more weight to it, even as a model with all this weaponry. This thing looks like it could really dish out a lot of pain. Like I really think it's cool, and I'm looking forward to having those guys rolling around on the battlefield. Before I go to the other Predator, I do have the Vindicator, and I did kind of paint up some cream for the Dark Angels on the front of it, because I have that splashing through the army, the Dark Angels cream color, but I also have a Dark Angels emblem on there, logo, and that's the main thing for those guys. Vindicator with the huge gun, if you're wanting to have a really, not a 1-2 punch, but a 1 punch. That's really going to do a lot of damage. Then I got the more classic Predator that I'm familiar with, and where the other one actually has las cannons on the side, this one, I just kind of noticed it now, has like heavy bolters. So that's kind of cool. Just, I haven't even really looked at the stats much or on any of this stuff in Epic yet, but I'm just assuming that maybe the other one will be better against armor, and this one will be maybe pretty good for a reasonable price against infantry if it's got the heavy bolters on the side. Then, I didn't do an oil wash on this. I did my normal army painter because of the cream color for the Land Raiders, and I did a little red Dark Angels logo on the side. Because of the dominant cream color, I opted for just doing a thin, soft tone, you know, on this. I thought it came out kind of nice. Now these are the plastic ones out of the group. I don't have none of those are metal. So yeah, I've got 4 of those too. So I've got Titans to do, and I started my drop pod as well. For those of you that don't play Epic, my understanding, I looked at the rules, is you don't need like a drop pod for each unit in this game. The drop pod's like a symbol of like a drop pod deployment like a, we'll call it a formation or a division, you know, within it. And I've not finished painting this guy, but I've started to. And so you'll put this guy down, and then you can put a whole bunch of units in, because it's basically like this is a swarm of drop pods, like a symbol for it, which I think that's pretty cool. Because it's a huge drop pod anyway. Well, I guess it's probably pretty realistically sized, to be honest. I think it's probably actual size to this scale. But now that I'm looking at it there. Now, I have Titans to do, I have a dropship, and I have those knights. You know, I don't really need to get to them because I'm playing Armageddon first, and they don't have rules in the core Armageddon. I think they have rules they expanded to later. I was wondering what to do with my Titan Legion, and I decided that I listened to some advice. I actually asked for some advice within Facebook, within a group that specializes in this genre of 40K. And the reason I did that is, although I read a lot about certain aspects of 40K, the Titan Legions, the Imperial Navy, like that kind of stuff, I've never really known as much about the background on. And I kind of figured, you know, a lot of these folks just love the background. Like, I do too in certain aspects. And I thought, why not just ask some folks who would make sense for Dark Angels from a background perspective, and then take a look at what the paint scheme looks like. What I decided to do was ask them, and somebody came back relatively recently, and they mentioned Legio Crucius, the Warmongers, from the Forge World Riza, and they have a coloration of black and white, of course with some metallic, like gold, like sort of in between. And I thought, with this sort of dark green and then the sort of cream color, like a black and white won't look really bad at all. It'll look like kind of a bit of a contrast. And I thought that might be cool. So I'm going to do my Titans as Legio Crucius. And so that'll be a plan. I've got the bulk of this army done. If I really needed to throw down right now, I could. And so I'm kind of happy about that. And so, because I've got the Musty Wargamers Old Hammer Painting Challenge coming up now, I'm going to tinker with this army on the side, but my main sort of videos in the future are going to be actually now going forward all around the Old Hammer Challenge. So I will be putting up a video. It might even be after the stream that we're going to do on Thursday, and it's just going to be just the color scheme and who I'm choosing and why and what I'm doing, like with the painting plan. So that'll be the next video for that. And then lastly, we are doing our standard stream time of 7 Mountain, 8 Central time. And it's going to be just Rusty and I just talking about the season coming up and the Old Hammer Painting Challenge. So we're going to be doing both, talking about when we're starting up again, just saying hello, and, you know, just having a brief chat. Probably having a little musty drink as well, because we usually do that. And so I hope you guys are having a great week, and I just finished working the Labor Day weekend here in Canada, so I had today off. And so I hope you guys are enjoying your day as I have. Talk to you later.